This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thrilled to announce the release of my new book, Obama's True Legacy: How He Transformed America. There's a reason why Mike Huckabee calls it a ferocious and chilling read. Order it now at Amazon.com or at FrontPageMag.com.
Good evening. Welcome back to another episode of the Glazov Gang. I am Aynaz Cyrus, your host tonight, sitting in for Dr. Jamie Glazov. Before I bring on our very special guest this evening, let me remind you, we are a fan-generated show. We've been here for 13 years solely because of you. And for that, we're grateful. But on every episode, I will remind you that if you want to continue supporting us, you can go to jamieglazov.com and make a contribution. Also, regardless of rumors, we are still heavily censored and shadow banned on all platforms. So make sure to subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble channel. Click that bell icon so you get notification every time we go live or post our short clips. I appreciate that. And on top of that, Jamie has given me authorization to promote my artist studio as we run our Christmas sale. 30% off entire store. You can go to lutfstudio.com. That's lutfstudio.com and make a purchase of either Christmas decorations that are out now or Christmas gifts and receive 30% off your entire purchase. And I will greatly appreciate your support. Okay, without further ado, let's bring on our special guest, Barry Nussbaum, founder of American Truth Project. You can find him and his project on findbarry.com. He is an old friend of mine. We have worked together. But the most important part about Barry is he is not afraid to tell the truth. And he has a lot of good inside information when it comes to Israel, Gaza, Palestinians, Middle East, and lots of red-green axis going on right here in America, which we will discuss. Hi, Barry. Welcome to the show.
So glad to be with you, Annie. It's a pleasure as always. And gosh, so much to talk about today.
Right. As I was preparing, which, as you know, I normally don't, but I did for tonight. I'm like, okay, where do I even begin? Where do we wrap it? We have like 55 minutes. It's overwhelming. But I decided the best way to start, considering this is an episode of Glazov Gang, is for our audience to know a little bit about your specific involvement on American Truth Project. So when we dive in, they can understand why you know so much and why they should follow you. So give us a little bit of American Truth Project, Barry Nussbaum, and why it matters.
I'll try and keep it short because it's 10 years of history that started with you and I a million years ago, or so it seems, 5,000 shows ago. American Truth Project is a 501c3 organization. So anyone that wants to donate to keep us on the air, go to findbarry.com and you can donate there, and it's all tax deductible. We specialize in American foreign policy and its relationship with our most crucial ally in the Middle East and maybe the world, which is Israel, the front line against terrorism in the Middle East and around the world. So our focus is specifically on things that affect our rights and privileges as Americans from a conservative viewpoint. And on the Israeli-American relationship, I have extensive contacts from literally the Prime Minister's office on down in Israeli intelligence, at the IDF. I have family that live there, that lived through the October 7th massacres. So a lot of personal information, both through my connections, my family, and of course, my extensive travels in Israel. And I talk to Israel literally every day.
Wonderful. Yes, I was there. Well, I should say I'm still there, but not heavily involved from day one. And I remember just for our audience, I got to come to your home, sit in person, to talk to you and discuss. And at that point, it was the start of we need a website. We need to build a website. And I remember we had a very rare discussion from your background of being, Jewish, and my background of an Iranian ex-Muslim. I feel like, Barry, that few, I think 20, 25 minutes of just a personal discussion is where I personally realized that it is so important to have discussions. You were definitely considering, as you said, ages ago. Not that I'm always okay with telling how old I am, but that was the first time I actually had a conversation, a decent conversation with an American Jew who wasn't afraid to tell me how desperately America needs a conversation, education, and information because they lack it. So the reason I'm saying this is I feel like today, and we will, to our audience, we will touch on Gaza, Palestine, all of that, but there's a more urgent matter to be discussed today here in America. And Barry, I feel like one of the reasons we are where we are, in 11 days, there is a election in New York City for a new mayor, and there's a very, very, very good chance that this Mamdani guy is going to be elected. And I feel like we got here because at some point between censorship and comfort, conversations and discussions stopped.
Yeah, it's horrific when you think big picture that the most famous city probably in the world, the home of American capitalism, free enterprise, network programming, literally the foundational bedrock of America, New York City, is about to be run by a self-avowed communist, a self-avowed Muslim, a self-avowed radical Muslim. He's a 12er, as we've talked about. This is not moderate. This is extreme Islam. And on top of everything else, he is anti-Israel, avowed anti-Semitic. Everything is being glossed over during the campaign. But the day after he wins, God forbid, but I think you're right. It's a very good chance he will. New York City is headed for an abyss, commercially, financially, socially, and it's the largest Jewish population in the world. And I don't think the Jews of New York have any idea what's coming.
Well, let me ask you, let's dissect this Mamdani guy for a minute. Because as you know, there are those out there who will push back. There are those out there say, "Oh, you're just taking his identity," because apparently now that's identity, and twisting it. So let's dissect Mamdani. I've done a couple of reporting on him on my Substack. You've covered Mamdani as a person plenty, but go ahead and tell our audience, why does Barry say this guy is the radical 12er dangerous guy? What's the backing? What's the evidence?
Well, it's not a secret that if you pay attention, which the media for the most part hasn't, he tells you what he believes. He tells you who he's associated with. He tells you who his family is. His staff are horrific people. I mean, literally out ripping down posters of the hostages kept in the dungeons of Gaza, making outlandish anti-Israel, anti-Jewish statements. He said he will send the police to arrest the prime minister of Israel should Bibi Netanyahu come to New York, which would literally, and I mean this word for word, um, create a firefight between the Secret Service and the cops on New York City streets if they were to listen to Mamdani's orders. I mean, this is chaos that is literally a few weeks away. And it's not secret that's been dug up. It's right there. He tells you, this is what I believe. I'm a communist. I'm supported by the Democrat Socialists of America. I'm supported by every Islamic organization there is that hates Israel, hates Jews, wants to break up the relationship between the United States and Israel. It's not a secret. It's right there. People just aren't paying attention. Although, I must say, in the last week or so, at the very last minute, people are starting to wake up. And if, this is a if in 50-foot capital letters, if Curtis Sliwa, who's running on the Republican ticket, polling about 9 or 10%, were to drop out and his supporters were to switch to the independent, the former governor of New York, Cuomo, and those numbers were to combine, Cuomo would edge out Mamdani for mayor. The question is, will Sliwa quit? And as of today, the answer is no.
Right. So let me go back to something you said. He'll say, "I'm a communist." Technically, when he went on View, I think last week, and he was straight up asked, "Are you a communist?" I said, "No, I'm a Democrat socialist." I want to make sure now the Glazov gang audience are very well educated when it comes to matter of Islam, Sharia, communism, socialism, red-green axis. But I just want to make sure if we have a new audience, socialism is the child of communism. Okay, there is no difference. It starts as socialism and then it ends up growing up into communism. So, just for anyone who might want to criticize a sentence, technically he has never said, he has even denied being a communist. But then if you look at his ad, I think it's the, which ad is it, Barry? He's in a like a supermarket or something, saying, the grocery cost will drop and all that. When you watch that ad, word by word is communism. If
Oh,
you
sure.
watch if you watch the 2 hour 19 minutes or so of the debate that happened last week on Friday, you hear it. Again, as you said, Barry, he's saying everything. And I want to disagree with you here. I don't think this is people not paying attention. I think this is willful blindness. I think a lot of New York City people, right or wrong, they are tired of the repeat with no result, no change, including Como. And they're so desperate for this charismatic new talking head that they don't care to hear what he's saying. They just look at the suit and the smile and the nod, and that's all. There's remember Obama time? I feel like that's
Good looking guy, real smooth on the microphone, had his talking points down, never blinked, never looked away. You just felt good. You
I
didn't want to dig in too much in what he was saying, but the fluff was great.
Mhm. Don't you think that's what's happening with Mamdani today?
Yeah, I do. Although there's a fairly large Muslim population in New York that is very well organized.
Hmm.
And I do want to make one comment, historical comment. The dictators in the Soviet Union, and I'm talking about Stalin, Khrushchev, Brzezinski, and so on, Brezhnev, sorry, they all said the same thing. You will get to communism through socialism. That's how we conquer. Socialism is the moderate words that lead to communism. Communism is control of the means of production. When he talks about we're going to nationalize grocery stores, we're going to take over transportation, healthcare, housing, uh, food, medical supplies, the subways will be free. That's not socialism. That's communism. But he calls it socialism because the DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America, it sounds kind of acceptable because you've got people like AOC and Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, all members of that cult. And it is all destructive to the bedrock freedoms and the capitalistic nature of America. And the people that belong to the geez, free stuff sounds really good club. I think that's a lot of his attraction. And he looks good. He sounds good. He's smooth. He's articulate. He has no background in government. He's never run anything. He's never had a job in the private sector. And he comes from an extremely radical Islamic family. And I feel like you and I are the only ones that care about it because in New York, it's the guy's crushing the polls because
Hmm.
everybody that's answering the polls is going, yeah, free stuff. He's anti-Christian, he's anti-Jewish, he's anti-freedoms, he's anti the American Constitution, he's anti-Semitic, and he's anti-Israel. Oh my gosh. And he's leading by a lot.
Yes, but he, unlike Rashida and Ilhan, one of the things I've noticed about his campaign, a fairly smart move, is they focused way more on his democratic socialist side than his Islamist side. He does post, for aid and Ramadan and things like that. And again, if you go to his X account, you'll see he's publicly pro-Hamas, anti-Israel, calls Israel, the occupier, yada yada. But the campaign itself didn't highlight the whole Islam thing, which I think was a smart move from the campaign manager. I shouldn't credit them, but it is due, so I will credit them. And that's what I've been saying. It's like, wait, on that debate, I don't know if you watched the debate or not, Barry, but this was interesting because at some point, by the way, yes, he showed up sharp. He didn't flinch. He had the answers ready. He was on it. Like he wiped the floor with the other two guys. He did. I gotta be honest. But there was a point where he played the victim card of Muslims, where he points out that paraphrasing said, it took me, the Muslim candidate, to make you, Como, to step into a mosque, because until I became a threat, you didn't even bother to acknowledge the Muslims in your city. Again, another brilliant victim card to play.
Oh, I think he's being handled brilliantly. And you make an interesting analogy. He is a younger, more overt Muslim candidate than Obama, but very, very similar. And I really like your analysis. I'm going to use it on my show tomorrow. He is a younger Barack Obama. I remember being in the audience in Washington, D.C. with a very big Republican leader of the House who was my guest at dinner. And we listened to Obama's speech for an hour and we looked at each other and people around us were standing ovations. The guy was that smooth. He had the audience in the palm of his hands, and the other candidates that were there paled in comparison. And you're right. He gets in front of a microphone and the camera's on. He sounds great. And he doesn't really say anything except free, 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 and free, right? Has no idea how he's going to pay for it. New York's budget will go upside down in the first month to a degree that they're going to be looking at bankruptcy, some people predict, within 6 months, because A, the tax base is going to disappear, the wealthy are going to leave, and then B, outrageous spending to pay for his social support programs for people that really don't need but would like free stuff. The free stuff programs work. Everybody that doesn't understand how life should be working loves the idea, hey, give me things that I don't have to pay for. You're my man, and you can have my vote. And that's how he's running, and that's how he's leading.
Yes, and let me address a question that's being asked by many. Big deal. It's just New York City. Why does this matter so much?
Well, it's the flagship city of the United States and maybe the world. It's the home of American capitalism. The stock markets are there. All the investment banks are there. The money funds are there. The heads of entertainment, all the networks are there. It is our flagship city. And the idea that it's going to be run by a communist Islamist, he's a Muslim, but an Islamist is a radical one that has ideas that are terrifying. And we've talked about it on your show, you and I know you've mentioned it. If he gets a say, the look of that city is going to change, and the prominence given to this radical sect of Islam will be enhanced because that's his personal belief system. I mean, good luck what New York's going to look like next year at this time.
Yes, and I just want to say, not to be too picky, but I don't think Mamdani is a radical 12er or radical Muslim. He's extremely committed and devout Muslim.
I use that word for one reason. You and I both know you're right. The people that are listening have been brainwashed into thinking there's Islam
And then there's radical.
and then there's radical Islam. And as you and I have said, and I'll clarify for about the millionth time on the air, radical Islam is someone who believes in Christianity's fine, Jesus is fine, the Bible's fine, Jews are fine. Those are the radicals. Those
Exactly.
are the ones that are, let's call them apostates within the Muslim religion. The followers of Islam believe as Mamdani does. They're not radical, they're literal. They're following the scriptures in the Quran and everything in Sharia, that they believe that their mission in life as a loyal follower of the teachings of Muhammad is to convert the world by the book or by the sword until Islam rules the world.
Exactly. And
That is a literal Muslim. That's what he is. I use the word radical because people have turned the definition around. Remember, George Bush on 9/11 stood on the ruins of the World Trade Center and declared to the whole world the biggest lie in the history of the American presidency when he said, Islam is a religion of peace. That is the singular dumbest sentence ever ever uttered by an American president in the history of the United States. It was an abject lie to pacify the people who were ready to go after the people that did that to America.
yes. And while you brought up Bush and Dad, remember this is also the city that faced September 11, which is one of the biggest disappointments. To know that the never forget has turned into where do I sign up for you to behead me or tax me or turn me into a dhimmi. Either one works. Now, let me add something for our audience into the point of why we keep saying the 12 or Shia Muslim part. If you look into the history of Sunni versus Shias versus Wahhabis, though they don't get along themselves, point of dangerous or what you would see in someone like Mamdani. Same thing with Hussein Obama. Hussein Obama was a Shia 12er as well, is a Shia 12er. The Shia sect that started with Ali as the first Imam of the 12 Imams, who was the nephew and also the son-in-law of Muhammad himself. He gained power without without a drop of blood. So did the rest of the 12 of them until Mahdi, who disappeared. Shia Muslims are the minority population of Muslims in the world, but you see them achieve the highest level of money, connection, diplomacy. Shias are known from Ali until today to be the backstabbers, where you see Sunnis screaming Allah Akbar coming at you. You see Wahhabis denouncing your existence. You don't see Shias doing that. Exactly what Hussein Obama did, exactly what Mamdani is doing, exactly what Ali, Hussein, Hassan, Asghar, the rest of them did. They are more dangerous because they use diplomacy and hutna to come at you rather than threats and screams. So that's what makes him, aside being devout, aside the communist mindset, also being a Shia is just an extra double icing on the cake. That's why we are concerned with his approach. They will lift the mask as soon as they have the power, like Obama did. He literally used his pen to make his fellow Shias in Middle East, being Iran, millions of dollars, right?
Actually, billions, but yes, I agree.
Did I say million? My head was going for billion. Billions of dollars, yes.
Yeah. No, you're
So,
totally right. You're totally right. And that's why I said a year from now, you won't recognize New York City. It'll be a disaster.
well,
And
go ahead.
you've got Trump doing his best, and I think he's right to say, look, if you're going to run our greatest city, my hometown, like a communist Muslim enclave, I'm going to cut the federal funds off. And very, very quickly, financially, New York will melt down. I don't know if Trump can get away with it. I don't know if it's going to sway any voters. I don't know if the people in politics in New York, can convince Lewa to drop out and encourage his supporters to back Cuomo, who, by the way, is not a great candidate. I mean, don't forget, he resigned in disgrace as governor. He's got a lot of baggage, but at least He's not crazy.
Well, let me insert a line here, as you said. One of the reasons I've been very, for lack of a better term, on air, very frustrated with us in America is, Barry, look, this is happening every time, in every level, local, state, federal. There are no better options left. I'm looking at these three guys at the debate night. I'm like, if I didn't know, if I wasn't an Iranian, former child bride, ex-Muslim, Christian journalist, I would vote for Mamdani. Barry, I would. Because I'm looking at the other two options. I'm like, no, no, I'm going to vote for Mamdani. This is, remember, we're focusing on Mamdani today, but you got Fatah in Minneapolis. Mamdani isn't the only one. Fatah in Minneapolis is also a socialist Muslim. And he's most likely to going to win it too. My point
Look at
is they keep,
Dearborn. Look at Dearborn. I mean, they've taken over the city council. Literally.
yes.
The police chief, the mayor, the city council.
Well, based on my reporting as of right now, 18 cities, that's 1-8, 18 cities in America are fully conquered. Government, police, all of that. It's fully conquered. But point is, Barry, they're winning because we don't provide better options for Americans. That's no excuse. I'm just trying to say we need to step up. We need younger, more sharp, charismatic, good looking, whatever is the requirement. We need to step up. I'm not trying to be ageist here, but you look at the Republican guy, what's his name again?
Curtis Sliwa.
Sliwa. I honestly, I'm like, this guy is like a little younger generation of Biden. They're like, they ask him, who's your modern day president? Who's your hero? And he names a New York governor. They had to stop him, like, sir, a president. It's like, oh. No, repeatedly, he's not even fully there. So that's your Republican candidate. And then Como, well, we already know. Been there, done that. He's not going to achieve. Problem is, we lack genuine candidates on any end. So the Islamic movement of policy and politics is growing pretty fast. How do we solve that problem?
Well, I can tell you from my personal experience in politics, as you know, your viewers may not, I worked in the highest levels of government in California for 12 years. I worked for 4 different governors in their administration on a cabinet level. And I can tell you, when I was asked to run for office, it was terrifying to me because not that I was afraid of whether I would do a good job or not. I was being asked by the highest levels of the parties in state and local government to run. It was not because I didn't think I could do it. I didn't want to climb into the swamp with them. I mean, it's a dirty, awful business. And the idea that successful, intelligent, articulate people that could do a good job want to do that becomes less and less popular with the really qualified candidates. That's why you get, to answer your question, so many bad candidates. I mean, the greatest city in the world nominates 2 people. One guy, his background is he was the guardian angel guy that would run around in the red beret and patrol the streets. That's his background. And the other guy was chased out of office with scandal after scandal after scandal, not to mention was probably responsible for thousands of deaths by locking up old people during COVID, and they died. I mean, his background is horrible. So you're right. You got the good-looking guy who's articulate, and if you're not paying attention, you're not exactly sure what he's talking about or who he is, but he looks a lot better than Cuomo and a lot better than Sliwa. And a lot of people vote like that. I'm going to vote for the good-looking guy. I'm going to vote for the guy that answered all the questions and looked right into the camera. And a lot of people, Annie, make their decisions like that. They pick the most unqualified candidate. I mean, you've got to admit, on air, AOC sounds pretty good till you understand what she's actually saying, and then it's horrible. but she looks good. She sounds good. She's always got an answer. She's young. She's vibrant. She's energetic. She's also a radical nut, but not that many people realize it. That's why they're talking about her for the United States Senate, which would be horrific. But the guy she would run against in the primaries has been in Congress for 40 something years, and he's a million years old, and he's the most unpopular senator in the United States Senate. I'm talking about Chuck Schumer. He's terrible, and he's a million years old. That's how you elect radicals, because there's nobody good that's running on the other side.
Yes, and also it's the fact, again, back to Mamdani, when you watch him, when you understand the plan, you're terrified, but when you don't, your average person who doesn't dig into policies, he has a plan. The other two don't. Again, one, lack of, we started this episode by me saying conversations are stopped. That's why there's a lack of knowledge. People stopped talking politics on Thanksgiving and Sunday dinner because they couldn't handle the disagreement anymore. Your generation, Barry, are way more informed because your generation understood agreeing to disagree. Your generation understood that if you're a registered Democrat, I'm a registered Republican, we're not each other's enemies. We're just practicing our God-given rights. But today's generation, they can't, so they just don't talk about it. Therefore, there is no knowledge. Nobody's comparing notes. Nobody's saying, hey, listen, I get that this guy is good looking and sharp and has answers and plan, but let me break down the plan for you. Immediately, it's a fallout, or nobody would even dare have the conversation. But problem is, our candidates, being an independent myself, our candidates lack planning. They just rely on their, as you said, 100 years old of experience. That was another thing Mamdani got Como on. Because like, this guy got no experience, I have experience. He's like, at least if I don't have experience, at least I still have my dignity. You don't have that. I was like, oops.
Actually, that's a gotcha. That's true.
That is true.
They threw Cuomo out, and he's back. I mean, when he declared his candidacy, I remember thinking, he doesn't have a chance. No one is going to vote for him. And in a three-way race, he will lose. The good-looking, articulate, radical Muslim will be the next mayor of New York, unless Sliwa drops out, and if all the Sliwa supporters go to Cuomo. So New York will elect the best of the worst.
Exactly.
That's literally what
exactly. And this is going to keep happening to every city. And remember, midterms coming. And I know a lot of people are, red waves coming, whatever. They're discounting the green wave. They are not paying attention to the green wave. Yes, Democrats have lost a lot of credibility. Their party is done, no question about it. But the green is taking advantage of this gap. They're coming in running either Democrat socialists. We have Republicans running Muslim Republicans. We got to pay attention to this green wave instead of worrying about the red wave. I mean, what red wave, by the way, as you said, you got Schumer. He's a Republican, supposedly, isn't he?
No, Schumer's the Democrat.
No, who am I thinking then? The guy that,
Cuomo is a Democrat as well. The Republican is Sliwa.
no, one of the people that he is a Republican. Why am I drawing a blank on his name? President Trump just endorsed him. It's gonna come to my head, but people walk around and call him a rhino. My point is the red wave could also be pink because lots of rhinos are gonna get in. But before we conclude on Mamdani, because there's something else I want to touch on before we run out of time. What is your, not that we have much time, but let's say for whatever reason, people of New York City end up watching this very moment. What is your suggestion to them, considering all candidates are, well, we just established there is no good candidate. What would be your suggestion to New York City voters today?
2 steps. Continue the tremendous pressure. There's only 2 weeks left on Sliwa to drop out. He has no chance. Not in a billion years will he be elected, but his ego won't let him quit. He's got to drop out, and he's got to endorse Cuomo. So my my advice to voters is keep the pressure on Sliwa to drop out, encourage his supporters to back Cuomo, and then the voters have to vote for Cuomo, or they're going to get a horrific mayor who will destroy the city. And that's literally my prediction. The city will be in ruins within a year.
Unfortunately, that's one thing I cannot. I mean, I could, but it would be irrational to try to disagree with. I guess we just keep praying and watching what happens on November 4th and possibly bring a follow-up. Now, let's switch gears, not necessarily switch gears, same topic, different location. I have a print of 24 pages in front of me, Barry. And this is the conclusion of International Court of Justice of UN that was concluded on October 22nd, 2025. Have you had a chance to get through this? Have you, been informed of it yet or not?
I have not looked at it, no.
Okay. So, I mean, I think you can guess the verdict, right? Israel bad, Palestinian, poor Palestinians, whatever. But there are two things in this that I want to ask your take on. Because, I mean, I understand we take UN as UN is a joke, but we can't deny its power. It would be very stupid to deny UN's power. It holds power, its General Assemblies, the seats, and their International Court of Justice still holds power. And this document scares me because the top title itself is the obligation of this court was the reasoning of this court was obligations of Israel in relation to the presence and activities of the United Nations, other international organizations, and third estate in and in relation to the occupied Palestinian territory. Barry, when UN International Court of Justice use the terminology of occupied Palestinian territories, what do you expect a bunch of students in Columbia University?
The words are self-defining, horrifically wrong, and very anti-Israel. Just historically, for a second, the nation of Israel was concocted by the United Nations as the successor to the plan put forward by the British, because the British ran the whole area. And when the British started carving up territories after World War I and created Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, and Israel, Israel was supposed to be from the river to the sea. Actually, it was supposed to be on the other side of the river, and then it was shrunk down from the river to the sea. In the war that followed, Jordan, Egypt, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon all attacked Israel in 1948, in the hopes of destroying all the Jews and taking over the territory. Jordan conquered the West Bank, which was the area west of the Jordan River, east of the Jordan River and west of the Jordan River, all the way to the armistice line that was established at the end of the war. The occupier was Jordan. And then in 1967, when all the countries were all for sure going to wipe out all the Jews, but Israel somehow survived in the Six-Day War, and Israel pushed back and reconquered that area was called by Jordan the West Bank of the Jordan River. The truth is, it's Judea and Samaria. It is the Jewish homeland. It's where the name Jews come from the tribe of Judea. It's where Jesus was. It's where all the prophets were. It's where the Torah was passed around. The idea that it is occupied territory is made up by the KGB and their student, Yasser Arafat, in 1964. There is no occupied territory. And the truth is, the only other territory that there is that was conquered, then liberated, and then given back was the Gaza Strip. It was given back by Ariel Sharon in 2005. It became the first independent Palestinian-administered self-governing territory, and they turned it into a terrorist hellhole. Everything the UN is now saying is a lie. The words are lies, but lies, when repeated often enough, as Joseph Goebbels used to say, the Nazi propagandist minister, they're accepted as truth. You say a lie enough with enough conviction, and eventually it's accepted as truth. There is no occupation at all. Period.
Well, it gets worse. Let me just read this part real quick. There's a section, section C, page 4, the attacks of 7 October 2023 and the response thereto. The court notes that on October 7th, 2023, Hamas and other armed groups present in the Gaza Strip carried out attacks in Israel, killing more than 1,200 people, injuring thousands and abducting 251, some of whom continue to be held hostages for more than 2 years. Following these attacks, Israel launched a large-scale military operation in the Gaza Strip by land, air, and sea, which has caused massive casualties, including the death of tens of thousands of civilians, a large number of whom were women and children. I'll stop here. Quick comparison to our audience. October 7th, Hamas and other armed groups, they're not called jihadists, they're not called terrorists, they're armed groups, attacked Israel, killed 1,200 people, took 251 hostages. No children, no women, nothing. But when it comes to the retaliation, we don't call it a retaliation. We say Israel launched a large-scale military attack, caused casualties such as death of many civilians, including women and children. Like, I'm no psychotherapist. I just read those. I'm like, wow. Apparently Jewish people are just people. They weren't civilians, right? Like the hostages, there were no kids. There were no children. Those who were burned alive were not children. It's the Gazans we're going to put the narrative of humanitarian on them, right?
It's flipping the script, which is why the vernacular is so important. The choice of words is so important. The attack on October 7th was one of the most barbaric, horrific attacks in hundreds of years. And it was literally the plan of Yahya Sinwar, the head of Hamas, who's now dead, thank goodness, who, after being released from Israel as part of a hostage exchange where Israel, gives up 1,000 people to get one back. That's what Israel does. They value human life so much. Yahya Sinwar spent years putting together the attack, and his plan, which has been published by the New York Times, was to slaughter, maim, cut up the genitals, cut people in half, burn them alive, put them in ovens. It's in his manuscript that the New York Times, and I don't normally quote them as a source of anything valid, has verified as accurate. They followed his plan exactly, and his plan included uploading it on the internet. And yet, this report fails to mention any of that. It just sounds like a skirmish, and then Israel overreacted. Israel wanted the hostages back. They still do. It's why I'm wearing the pin right here. There's still 13 dead bodies in Gaza that Hamas refuses to give up. And but for President Trump, there'd be another 20 alive hostages that would still be in those dungeons being tortured to death. None of that is mentioned. It's grossly one-sided, which is why I've been saying for years the UN has outgrown its usefulness. It's become a staging ground for radical, small countries that vote. Remember, Swaziland or Monaco, with no population and no square kilometers of landmass, has the same vote as the United States, and we pay for it to be voted out on almost every single assembly vote in the General Assembly. So the court comes up with this BS, which is completely fictitious. And as you say, if I was to read that and I didn't know any better and I was a kid at Columbia, you're right. You're 100% right. I hate Israel. Look what they did to the poor victims in Palestine. And And quite frankly, when you listen to the interviews with the hostages and they're asked, so you were guarded for 2 years by a guy in a uniform? No, I was chained in a hole by a doctor who works at Gaza Hospital,
And a
or
teacher.
a teacher at the UNRWA school, or a nurse from the medical center. These weren't soldiers. They were people that were starving me to death and would give me enough calories to keep me alive, and I lost half my body weight. These are not Gazan soldiers. They're the citizens. They're not victims. They're participants. The majority of the people that crossed the border on October 7th were not in uniform. They were people that volunteered in the streets and took their cameras and GoPro'd it live on the internet. The videos are there. They're horrible. Celebrating the massacre of Jews and bragging to their parents on their phones, I killed 10 Jews, Dad, you're so proud of me. Those are very, very, very infamous videos. None of that, I bet, is in the report, and I haven't read it, but I'll bet you it's not there.
It's not. I have read every word of every page of 24 pages, and it's not. It gets worse. I only, of course, the headline was important, but I only picked the least worse part. The accusations build up and build up. And exactly, that is why I asked you the question I asked you. After reading this report, I came to realize that the reaction to these students in universities, we need to educate them. This is what they're reading. It gets to parts where, aside the fact calling Israel the occupier of the land, the accusations are they date days where Israel stopped allowing aids in, and that day this many Gazans died of starvation. Absolute lies. But these kids are reading it. They're reading it. So what do I expect from these kids? I'm not excusing their problems and issues and actions and reactions. I'm just finding the roots of the problem, and huge part of it is UN. It's not mainstream media. It's not the schools. It is the United Nations, and I have been saying it just like you. We may not be able to completely get rid of UN, but I don't understand why my tax dollar is funding this propaganda machine that is literally putting out so many lies and propagandas that's turning the entire world against Israel. But we are out of time. I do want to put one more note about what you said for our audience. Middle East. We're just talking Middle East, not Asia. Middle East. There are 14 countries in Middle East. 14. One is Israel. The other 13 are all Sunni, Wahhabi, or Shia Islamic nations. Israel is up against 13 countries. Next time somebody tells you Israel is the problem, whomever that somebody is, ask them, how are 13 Islamic countries that are the majority of the population of Middle East by over 92% cannot handle one problem? Stop believing the lies. Barry Nussbaum, founder of American Truth Project. Where do our audience go to support your work and get more educated on the topics you're discussing every day?
It's so simple. Findbarry.com. Findbarry.com takes you right to American Truth Project. You can sign up for free. You'll get all of our content. We never charge for it. You get something in your mailbox every day or two. Lots of videos, lots of information exactly on the topic we're discussing now. Findbarry.com gets you everything you want, totally free.
Findbarry.com is where you find all the information you need. Sign up to their newsletter, but also, if you can, we're coming to the end of the year, so do your end of the year giving. You can donate right there, and as Barry said, it is 100% tax deductible. Support causes, support people who have not bent over a decade of pressure, censorship, boycott. Support them, and Barry is one of those people. His tone has not changed from day one, and I promise you, his tone is not going to change. Make a donation, end of the year contribution, tax deductible, and support the American Truth Project. Barry, as always, I never get tired of chatting with you, especially when it comes to these topics, but I appreciate your time as it's very valuable. Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll have you back on the Glazov Gang soon.
I would be always available for either you or Jamie. Just let me know.
We appreciate that. And to our audience, thank you so much for staying with us until now. We appreciate you as always. And remember, jamieglazoff.com is where you can make a contribution to keep us right here on air. You've been there for 13 years, and we're always grateful. Until the next time, stay safe, stay vigilant, and may God bless you, and may God bless America. Goodbye.